This is surprisingly heavy for just being sheep's wool. And if you didn't already guess, today is Insulation Day.
We could probably do a whole 15-minute video on why we chose to use Havelock Wool in our van, but the long and the short of it is that we felt the best about using this insulating material for Canadian winters and summers. A lot of people are using spray foam, and honestly, we were almost those people too, because we are converting our van in the fall, winter season of Canada. The temperatures outside were just not good enough for us to be able to do that. If you've ever worn a sheep's wool sweater in the winter, you know how warm wool can be, and so it does make an excellent insulator. It's good for making sure that moisture doesn't build up behind the insulation, which is really important to help prevent mold and mildew.
Now that's not to say that we're going to use sheep's wool for the entire installation in the van, because we only bought 2 bags of Havelock wool, and Havelock says you need 3 to 4 bags to completely insulate your entire van, so we're going to have to get creative. The goal for today is to get all of the crevasses filled with Havelock wool, see how much we have left over, and then determine what further steps we need to take to completely insulate this van. Oh, and by the way, did we mention it's 22 degrees in November? Today is a perfect day to get this job done.
This is the first package that we received for the van, and I've been dying to open this. I know it's just a bunch of wool, but it symbolized the beginning of this. It is clean thoroughly, so it doesn't really smell like a petting zoo would. However, it does smell very organic, if you know what I mean.
So this does come as batting. Oh, that does smell organic.
For some reason, I thought it was a great idea to wear black pants today. I think it's gonna look like we belong to a sheep farm by the end of this. Each of these bats is equivalent to 3.5 R, which is the insulation rating. Together, 2 inches equals 7 R, and that's what's listed on the bag. In most places, we will be able to use 2 pieces together, which means it'll have an R value of 7. However, there's going to be places like these big window panels where maybe we would only be able to use 1 bat. Luckily, they come apart very easily, which is gonna make our lives pretty simple, I'd say. Winter is coming. How do you like my new scarf?
While Kirsten plays with our insulation, I think I'm going to get started by ripping some bat off and starting to fill the wall crevasses with this bat and just see how it goes. Well, one of the good parts about using wool is it's flexible, and if we screw up installing, we can take it out and put it back in. But this one, for example, has got to go way up in there because we want our van to be nice and cool in the summer and nice and warm in the winter. It's what everybody wants, isn't it?
Wow, it already feels warmer in here.
When you're do-it-yourselfers like us, sometimes you gotta be creative with the tools that you use. Like our tripod leg.
Or your broom handle.
It is day 2 back on the insulation grind. We got all of our crevasses filled yesterday, which feels great. We have to get the sheep's wool insulation into where the window cutouts would have been to make sure that our van is properly insulated so that we can stay nice and warm or nice and cool depending on what time of year it is here in Canada.
This is also where we have a little bit of creative liberty according to Havelock Wool, because they don't really say how you're supposed to install this, and there's no right way, just don't adhesive it.
When you're installing Havelock wool onto the side of the van, don't do this. This is what you don't want to do. It was our first attempt and it didn't work so well. This right here is the blueprint. You tape the corners of the Havelock wool and you just keep going panel by panel. This works way, way better. I must say this blueprint worked great. We have all 3 panels done now, but I think the next step is to get the studs up because we are getting a little bit antsy to start building out our van. Oh, we ran out of tape. Day 3, we are back at it again. We have all of our insulation up in our wall panels, and today's task is to try and get all of the wall studs into the vehicle and mounted. We've had to be a little bit creative with this because we do not want to screw into the metal frame of the vehicle if we don't have to. So what we did was buy 2 separate types of bolts, because in the Ford Transit there are pre-tapped holes that are metric. They are 8mm. So we went ahead and bought a pile of bolts that we can use to screw into the pre-tapped threads. We also got 3 8-inch bolts because in the Transit there are holes that don't have threads, and these 3 8-inch bolts fit perfect. I love using them, and we are going to use them in as much of the vehicle as possible because it makes life really easy, and it also makes these studs super solid. We went ahead and pre-cut a couple pieces here of 3/4 inch plywood to serve as our strapping. Now we're going to show you our very scientific method to making sure that we actually drill our pilot holes in the right part of the wood. We have to make sure the pilot hole is drilled in the perfect spot. Because of the bolts we have, we also need to countersink. I'm gonna drill a small pilot hole first. I'm then gonna use another tool that will actually cut out a countersinking hole, and then I'm gonna drill the correct size pilot hole. It's a bit of a long way around, but we just don't have like the exact perfect tool, so we're just doing the best with what we got. I mean, it's really sturdy, guys, like as you can see. I haven't even put the washer and the nut on the back one, but it's like super solid, other than the splintering. I don't like that.
We really like working with these ones because they lay completely flush with the board. Personally, I want it to be as perfect as possible, but at least this way we can have the flattest mount, hopefully. For the most part, we've done vertical studs, and that's because we're going to be running tongue and groove in some places, and also because vertical studs are a little bit more conducive to the design that we're doing, except for in this area. I guess this is kind of a sneak preview of what we're actually planning on doing with the van. So on this side, this is going to be a Murphy bed. It'll make more sense when we get the actual structure going.
We've learned a few things from doing studs over and over and over, and the most important thing we learned is if you are impatient, just get self-tapping screws. This is taking forever. I am extremely happy with how sturdy these studs are so far. They don't feel like they're gonna go anywhere. The 3/4 inch plywood itself is also really strong. I'm thinking we've built ourselves a really solid base here, and we didn't even have to drill into the sheet metal of the vehicle to do so. Well guys, it's been almost 2 weeks since we did any work on the van.
But it's not because we've been lazy. It's more like trying to get this done takes a lot of time just to source parts.
We've been working long and hard on getting the electrical system up and running because that's the next step of this van, is actually wiring it. But today we have a whole pile of little like loose end odd jobs to tie up.
We haven't insulated our ceiling yet. We decided not to do wool for that, mainly just because of the logistics of putting it up. So we are going to be putting foam board up. We needed stick pins to put them in rather than adhesiving it to the ceiling, so we've got to get that done, and then we'll have our insulation job finally finished.
We also have to finish fastening our studs to the roof and to the walls, and we bought these nylon threaded bolts. They're like nylon lock bolts, and they are perfect for the van because they're made to make sure that vibration can't rattle them loose. They're very difficult to get on, but it's going to allow that our studs to be mounted to the vehicle incredibly strong. These nylok nuts do pose a bit of a challenge because, well, I got to get my hand behind the wall with a socket wrench to actually be able to tighten them. The way the nylok works is once you get to the nylok threaded insert, there's just no way that your hands can tighten it all the way. You need a tool that can provide proper torque. So in order to do that, I gotta reach my hand all the way around, get the position, and give her. It takes quite a few turns, and in some of the more awkward positions, especially where I have to put my left hand way around, it's caused problems. But with these nylok bolts being really tough to put on, I imagine they're also gonna be tough to take off, which is exactly what we want, because we don't want our studs rattling loose while we're driving down some pretty awful backcountry roads out west. That is pretty good. So the goal now is to do that with the rest. I've actually already done it with the 6 bolts on this side of the vehicle. So now I just got to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 more. This is my favorite one yet. I can do a full quarter turn. This is great. I wish they were all like this. That is as sturdy as they come, ladies and gentlemen. Even with all the extra time we spent on these, I do not regret this because these feel infinitely stronger than the metal screws we put in. This bolt here, the socket wrench won't fit, so I gotta do it the old-fashioned way. Quarter turn by quarter turn. Oh, fun times. I just finished putting in the last of the nylok nuts. I'm so happy because everything is so sturdy. Like I'm rocking the van while I do this. So I'm pretty sure that these studs are gonna be able to handle all the weight that we throw at them. And that's one of the best parts about not just like doing it yourself, but finding a solution to make sure you're not just putting a screw straight through the metal here. I think what we're gonna do at this point is pack in for the night. The sun is almost down and the sun is down at like 4 o'clock. It's gonna be like another 3 weeks until the days get longer. So we're gonna pick you up tomorrow. Things are going good.
I'm gonna be so thankful when we're done this last big insulation project. We have just got the ceiling to do today, and then all the insulation is basically done. Today we're putting up foam board insulation in the ceiling. We've chosen to use EPS foam instead of the XPS that we used in the floor. It's a little bit more environmentally friendly and it isn't quite as good on the R value, but we feel a little bit better using it because it was also cheaper. We're using stick pins to put our insulation up, which was a massive tip from Greg Virgo. So thank you, Greg. You're saving our lives. I can't imagine adhesiving this up and having to rig up some system to keep it up there. That just sounds awful. Getting these stick pins in Canada was actually really difficult. We called about 7 different companies to be able to get them, and they would only sell to tradespeople and in batches of 1,000, which we did not need that many. We are probably using about 50 in our van, so that was just overkill. Thank goodness some amazing man out of Calgary had bought 1,000 himself and was selling them on eBay, which we'll link down below if you want to order from him the same stick pins that we used.
Well, that's a success so far. I'm really happy with the way the insulation's coming. We have 2 more panels to do today, so I think we're just gonna hit it hard and hopefully get it done within the next hour and a half. A special shout out to everybody who's joined us over on Patreon so far. Your support means so much to us. In the next video, we're gonna be talking about the actual plans for the build and doing a special project that we haven't gotten to yet before we start sheeting the van and actually building this thing out. Because pretty soon this van is gonna start looking and feeling like our tiny home on wheels. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed and we'll see you in the next video.